why do you spend all your time talking about Calvinism? And these are worded exactly the way the question came in. Okay, so this is exactly the way it came in. Why do you spend all your time talking about Calvinism? Shouldn't you be evangelizing the lost and making a difference that actually matters in the world? Okay, we've talked about this before. I know that people who tune into Soteriology 101 think or get the impression that I only talk about Calvinism. If you could walk with me throughout my day and my life, and with my 4 children and my wife, and you saw me at work with Texas Baptist and traveled with me and saw the things that I did, you would hear me mention Calvinism exactly the same number of times as if you watch my program all the time. It's about the same. In other words, if you only see me through the window of Soteriology 101, you can get the impression that this is all I talk about. However, if you spend your life with me day in, day out, my wife very rarely hears me ever mention Calvinism. My children rarely. Matter of fact, I've only ever had discussions with my children about this topic when they have brought it up to me, to be honest with you. And it's just not something I talk about a lot outside of this context. It's almost like what I've talked about with a foot doctor, a podiatrist, right? If you follow him at work, he's going to talk a lot about feet because that's his specialty. That's what he does at his work. But if you go home with him, he probably doesn't talk about feet all that often. It's just not something that maybe even come up all that often as a podiatrist whenever he's out doing his normal livelihood and his work outside. So yeah, I've created a podcast talking about this doctrine. I wrote my dissertation on this. Braxton Hunter refers to me as a soteriologist, meaning that this is my area of specialty. This is the area that I've studied on and created a broadcast specifically talking about. And people could do this with Chris Date, since he was on the program. Chris Date, that's all you ever talk about is hell. Why is it you're just consumed with hell, Chris Date? And anybody who knows Chris, that's not true. He talks about hell, and he's very good at talking about the topic because he's studied the topic very well, and he does a good job with it. But I know Chris well enough to know this is not the only thing he ever talks about. He has a whole life with family and other interests and other articles and other things that he's written. Well, I do too, but people have got to get past that sometimes and just see sometimes you have a program that's directed towards a particular thing, and that's what this is. And so, one, I don't only talk about it. Two, I would just say making a difference that actually matters. I think it's kind of like what C.S. Lewis says. If Christianity is true, then it is the most important thing in the world. It can't be just moderately important. And I'm paraphrasing, but in other words, what C.S. Lewis is saying is that Christianity, if it's true, it's of most importance. If it's false, if it's no importance at all, what it cannot be, it's just moderately important. It can't be just middle of the ground. Well, soteriology is kind of the same kind of thing. The doctrine of our salvation is the most important point of theology with regard to our relationship to God. It's about our reconciliation. And I can't think of a more important topic, at least with regard to soteriology, with regard to what is salvation, who is God, what does God want, how does God relate to us? That's a pretty important topic. It's certainly more important than what I hear just droning on and on and on in so many men's homes today with CNN on, or CNN or ESPN going on in the background. I mean, literally, I was in a friend's house the other day where he had ESPN, and they spent 45 minutes talking about a particular play in one of the most recent sports ball events, as Braxton likes to call it, sports ball events. I'm a theology nerd. I'm not a sports nerd. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about things that do matter a lot more so than, the golf balls and sports balls and all the other things that people spend hours and hours droning on and on and on about. And again, I like watching football occasionally, and I'm not trying to make you feel guilty if you spend time in a pastime doing something else. But theology geeking out with my friends on Facebook is one of the things that I do. And I think you can walk and chew gum at the same time. I shared my faith with the person who cut my hair 3 days ago. And I'm not saying that trying to brag about how many times I shared my faith this week or whatever else. Her name is Jennifer. Pray for her. She's struggling right now. And she's I think a seed was planted, and she didn't pray to receive Christ, but I think there's a seed that's been planted, and I will purposefully go back to her when I get my hair cut again in a few weeks, because I want to follow up with that conversation. And so, yeah, I do share my faith. I'm a director of evangelism, and we're putting together events about teaching people how to share their faith and how to do apologetics well. I believe very much in that. I think we should spend much time talking about and dealing with evangelism. It's a very important topic, but that doesn't mean you can't talk about other important topics. And I think soteriology is another important topic, and higher on the list than many of the other topics that many men and women spend a lot of time talking about in their pastime. And so bear with me on that.